Welcome to the Healers Café, the number one show for medical practitioners and holistic healers to have heart to heart conversations about their day to day lives while sharing their expertise for improving your health and wellness. Welcome to the Healers Cafe. And today I have with me Dr. Kelly Barron, and she's a dynamic chiropractor and survivor who transformed the scars of a violent assault into a powerful narrative of resilience and empowerment. She's a graduate of Life University with a Doctor of Chiropractic degree. She co-founded Tempesta and is a certified integrated threat response instructor, equipping women with the tools to reclaim their strength and defy victimhood. You're also a mother of three, and oh my goodness, there's so much more. I think I'm just going to pass it to you and welcome you. And yeah, let's tell me a little bit about your story, what brought you to what you're now passionate about teaching.
Well, thank you for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be invited, and I am grateful for that. Um, a little bit more about myself is that I was the victim of a physical assault in my early 20s, and that led me in this, it put me in this 10-year span of not not being the victim necessarily. It put me more in a numb spot of just it didn't happen. I don't remember it. I remembered it. I just blocked it out. I just became very, very introverted and just didn't like being alone. Didn't like making decisions. Just sort of paralyzed in my body. Um, but fast forward, I have three young children, and my husband said to me at that time, you need to learn you need to be positive and confident in who you are, how you view the world, and also to be able to protect your children and yourself. So he hired a self-defense instructor to come once a week to my house, and from there, that's where the journey started. I took self-defense once a week in my garage. It was street self-defense. So I learned gun and knife and all the not so pretty promoted parts of self-defense that you need to know. And I said midway through that journey that the only way to snap out of this and control my life and to open up is to actually face that demon and put myself into a very uncomfortable situation and learn how to be comfortable with it. So I decided at the lovely age of 38 to take my first MMA fight.
Okay.
And that that most people don't do that, certainly not at 38 and with
Oh,
children. Um, Especially when your opponent is basically could be your daughter. So I fought that first fight. I lost a split decision, but it wasn't about the win or lose. It was about, facing my fear of being hurt, of not being able to defend myself, stand up for myself. I went on to have three more fights, and then decided at 42 probably wasn't the best idea to keep showing up at the emergency room with black eyes and three little children. So I moved on to some jujitsu competitions, and then started to move forward from there. Powerlifting, competitive powerlifting. The point being is that I learned that sometimes you may never fully heal from something, but you need to adapt to it. It's always going to be a part of who you are and your life story, but you need to take that, integrate it into who you are and make the best out of it. What could I learn? What could I make better? And I found that the way to do that for me was to constantly put myself in these positions where I was scared, uncomfortable, learn how to overcome it. Failure or success did not matter, just that I attempted to do something, and that I could control the situation for myself. Where that's led me to now is I 54 now. Obviously, the lovely world of menopause and perimenopause is here, and no one ever tells you about that. And it's sort of like you start hearing rumblings of it. Luckily for us, it's becoming very mainstream to talk about it, but it's still, the voices are still relatively quiet. And I found that same sort of feeling coming back again, that other women must feel frightened and scared and almost controlled by their bodies, almost
Mm,
a victim of the process that was going on with very little information, but even more importantly, very few people that they could tell their stories to or look to. So I jumped into the world of menopause and perimenopause and started a company called Tempesta. And I wanted to reach out to women specifically in the areas of genitourinary syndrome of menopause, because for a lot of women it's they won't talk about it, it's embarrassing, and sexual wellness. And that is where I find myself today, all stemming from a
mm,
history major turned chiropractor turned menopause specialist, and so on and so forth.
But like really a journey of empowerment and facing the possible story of being the victim. It's like
Correct.
it's really shifting that and then by your actions being the example of what's possible. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. So
It's very much a I could have stayed. I had every right to stay in that victimhood.
Mm,
I don't really like that word, but that's the
yeah.
best way to describe it. I could have stayed there, and my life would have been predicated upon that event and my actions going forward. And I looked at these small children thinking, they're three boys. How can I be a mom that's, so isolated and scared and introverted? And I
Mm,
think looking at them was a big factor also to say, I want them to remember me as someone that gave her all, that didn't give up, that didn't quit. And without knowing what I was doing, I slowly started to rewire my brain from the event that happened to know this is who you are, which are two completely different people. So I will say this, it is a horrible thing that happens to anyone. It was a horrible thing that happened to me, but there was such a positive effect that came out of that. So I won't say I'm grateful for it at all, but I will say that it changed me in ways that I didn't know I could change, or things I could achieve that I didn't know I had it in me.
mhm. I mean, I think that's sort of what happens too with illness or disease. It's not that, I mean, I guess I have heard people say they're grateful for it because the change is so positive. But when there's violence, it's hard to say you're grateful for violence,
Right,
that's kind of a
right.
tricky story. But the just the potential that we have to look deeper, feel deeper, change more. It's almost like we're living more superficially in the sense that until you're challenged, you don't know really all that you are,
Correct. You
right?
don't. You
You
don't know what's deep inside of you. And some people never know that.
right.
It just it's scary sometimes. You have to look at yourself, you have to face yourself. That's not fun a lot of the times. That's very, very scary to do. But a lot of things live just in our mind. And if we can learn to be more open in our thinking and the possibilities of who we are and what we can achieve, the better. And and that's why I see that in this, especially in this age group of women, we start to shut down thinking our biological clock is definitely getting louder and louder. Our reason for being, our biological reason for being on this planet is no longer functioning. And women start to get wrapped up in this, well, what is my purpose in life, and what do I do? And start to sort of withdraw, and then they go through all these symptoms and the hormones, and they're not having anyone to really support them. So that is where my drive comes from now, to say, look, I look at me. I couldn't fight my way out of a paper bag on any given day, but I spent years and learned how to do it. I couldn't lift heavy weights and I did it. And so there's I've done quite a few things and so can anyone else.
Mhm. So what do you think is so difficult about menopause from the woman that you help? Like what is it, if you could sort of summarize it or, you know, exemplify why is that such a difficult period for women?
Well, each woman is different. So the physical symptoms of menopause are all over the board in terms of what a woman will experience, the intensity, lack of intensity that she will experience, this physical symptoms. What I see most though is the mental aspect of it because so many things lead to depression or a lack of self-worth, loss of confidence. It runs, it runs an array of things. If you start to gain weight because your hormones have changed and you're doing all the things that you think are right or that you used to do and it just won't go away, that starts to really wear down on a woman. Her physical appearance is what she deems as one of her biggest assets. Her change of hair texture, loss of hair, things like that. When that starts to happen, it's more about, oh my gosh, my hair is falling out. Am I not pretty anymore? What do I look like? And then when you go into the GSM area, if you have, say, urinary incontinence or pain during sex, and you start to become withdrawn from your partner, and you don't feel sexy, you don't feel worthy anymore. So I think the biggest and the most troubling thing for women is that mental aspect. They go into it with a very negative thought process. And to be fair, the world is treating menopause more as a not somewhat of a disease or a condition versus a rebirth and a transition of the woman that you are. A woman, and I learned this not too long ago. We spend, I believe it's 74% of our lives in transformation. We're constantly changing our hormones, and there's no move from I was born and I can have a baby till I can't have a baby, I'm gonna die. That's pretty much how women set it up. I have two phases. I can have babies, I can't have babies. But that's not true at all. And this is just a phase. And now we're in this rebirth where the children are likely out of the house now, or they're in college or late high school. You're not having to run after them. You have time. You can spend time with your partner or your friend. It's a time of self-care and doing the things that you wanted to do that you didn't do before, whether it was your job, your family, whatever it was. But now it's all about you. So I want women, and my mission is to have women know there's support out there. You can talk about the things that are very uncomfortable, and this is a time of your rebirth. Look at it positively. If they do that, things change. In Japan, they have maybe 15% menopausal symptoms, but they view menopause as a celebration. And when they do have these symptoms, they're greatly reduced because the way that they go about it, their mental thought process about it is just it's okay, we have this, but um, it's not that bad, and then I'm gonna get to this stage, and I'm gonna be wise, and I'm gonna be this beautiful woman in my 50s and 60s. So that is where I think we need to start change our thinking.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's really like a cultural
Yes.
stereotype that I think probably through movies and television and all of that I never had a television, so I don't I don't know this, and I experienced menopause as a non like there was one period of like, whoa, that's a lot of flow. And then
Yeah.
it's like, holy bonitos. And then it was kind of like, okay, that's it. And I would say like 3 months where I went, whew, okay, this must be what's going on. And, but it never affected the person that I am or any of those aspects. But I don't think I was trained the way that, I'm a bit of an outsider to the culture. So I don't know all the Hollywood actors, and I'm not in that world at all. I don't know how you're supposed to be because I just am who I am. And it really isn't a big deal, but I think it's really, and obviously when I was a naturopath, I met people that were not like me as well. And I'm really aware that we've been cultured to
Yes.
then look down on ourselves or to think that the transition of losing hair or going gray or they're all problems. Well, not really. It depends how you look at it. Like,
Right.
you can say embrace the gray, like, awesome, right? Or you can say, well, makes my face look older, I'm going to paint it up a bit for another few years, whatever you choose. But it's like it's the ability to love yourself and take care of yourself your whole journey.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
that's what it is, right? And I think it's really important, to support the women who, yeah, they've been caught in this propaganda.
What would your life be like if you were pain-free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Bolliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
Of how it should be,
Right, and that's very true with social media and movies and television, and even with this emergence of um, awareness for menopause, which is a fantastic thing. Everybody's talking about it now, and it makes for just a really good space for women when they felt like they weren't heard by their doctors or they were told it was just nothing or go take an Advil. That is wonderful. But there's negative messages coming through within that awareness as we hear you, we know you're suffering, versus we hear you and let's celebrate this. Let's find things to ease the symptoms, reduce what you're going through, and look towards the future of what lays beyond however long that you go through this transition. So you're right. If you were unaware that menopause was an actual thing that we went through, if you didn't have a name for it, you just knew, like, just like childbirth, we celebrate that. And yes, we
Right.
get a little prize at the end of it, but a lot of not so fun things happen during pregnancy.
Right.
But yet we're like, oh, it's so great, I'm cramping and have heartburn. I cannot wait for this baby to come. If we if we didn't know, if we just thought, okay, this is just a process of human beings, of what we do, it would we probably sail through it a lot better than we are doing right now.
Yeah, no, I think so, definitely. I mean, they say that, what you think and how you feel about things affects also the degree of pain that you can experience and the resistance to change. I mean, change is also culturally, most people, that's their number one fear is change, right? They want safety or so-called safety, which really means no change. And
Right.
We are change. We change. Our cells rejuvenate, continually. Different cells in different parts of our body have a cycle of, 21 days or 7 days. We have brand new everything, it's
Exactly.
part of us being alive, so.
And I sometimes I try to break it down for some women in a very like just rough real world ways of explaining it. I'll tell them. So listen, you have this like amazing factory going on. It's a steel mill. Steel mill's up. It's running. It's doing great. Those are your baby years, but they have to close the steel mill down, and that takes, you just don't shut the doors. I mean, you're working with chemicals and metals and things like that. So it's going to take a little while to fully shut that plant down. And that's sort of like your body. You were up, you were running, you were built to make babies, whether you had them or not. That's what was going on. Now the factory's shut. We're shutting down now, and it's going to take a little bit of a transition till that's fully done. And sometimes those transitions can be uncomfortable, but they're not forever. And women aren't being told that either. They're not being told that once you get past menopause, symptoms do subside. Some symptoms pop up for a little while, some linger, and then they subside. And there's a whole other phase of your life. I think they view it more as, well, this is it, and this is me forever. I'm just one hot flash after another. But
Right.
that is not the truth.
Mm. And what about like the impact on sexuality? Um, have you had a lot of women complain about that?
Yeah, that's a big one. Um, and that mostly, if you again, if you take away any of the physical symptoms that they're experiencing, a lot of that is going to come down to mindset. It's going to come down to if you have vaginal dryness, typically the doctors, they're either going to prescribe vaginal estrogen, but more often than not, they're just going to tell you to get lubrication or moisturizer, something right off the shelves, and add that in. But women are afraid because they think, not all women, but a lot of women, especially in this Gen X age group, are afraid that, oh, well, that means I'm a failure because I can't get aroused that way, or I have to use this. I feel like I failed by having to use something, um, or they're tired. Their hormones are going a little crazy. Um, their cortisol is through the roof. They're stressed out, and they don't take the time. So I try to tell women that sexual wellness and sexual health is not broken down to just the physical physical act of sex.
Mhm.
It could be 10 minutes of just laying there cuddling your partner, just physical touch, holding hands wrapped around each other. That's intimacy. That's wellness. If that's all that the two of you can bring to the table at that moment, that is beautiful. Um, Quietly talking, that's beautiful. Spending time together, that all is intimacy. So if we start thinking we can bring things into the bedroom, we can try new things. We may have to try new positions or this or that or different ways, or we simply can just touch and be in each other's presence. That's all intimacy. If you take the expectation of there needs to be an outcome for sexual wellness, so we need to do, there has to be an ending, and it's one ending and one ending only. If we get rid of that and put no pressure and just say the ending might be just cuddling up and peacefully falling asleep and being so grateful for that time, that's intimacy. So I try to tell women, don't put these expectations on yourself. And when they start to open up and they start to say, wow, think outside of the box and think, what is it really that I need and I want out of this moment, things start to feel a lot better. And their approach to their sexual wellness, their sexual health really starts to improve drastically.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely an element that is how you see what the expectation, but I think again, a lot of our generations, have been raised directly or indirectly with like a pornography vision of this is sex, and therefore, you know, that's that's what it's all about, right?
Right.
And I think yeah, I mean, it affects young people.
It
uh,
does.
Absolutely, because they can't they learn not to feel what they're actually experiencing in the moment,
Exactly.
and they then have visions of that's the part we should be looking forward to, or that's how, rather than
Yeah.
the entire thing. And I think it's a bit of an unwinding that happens, in menopause. But there's also, I know with some of my patients, I would say, well, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the best things that you can do for your sexual health is have sex. That
Yes.
it truly is, because so many things, you know this, so many things happen. Chemicals are released, hormones, all the good things in life. It's like working out. All the things that help keep you young, that helps keep your tissues young. Um, and again, just like you said, there's doesn't have to be this big Disneyland fairy tale ending to it every time. You just have to enjoy the moment, find the pleasure in what it is that you're doing. But yeah, it is true. Use it or lose it, is a true statement.
Yeah. And the thing too is, now there are, if your partner, because it's not just the woman that can be the
Correct. Oh, right.
impact, it's usually the other way around. Then it's like there are things that you can purchase and still
Absolutely.
enjoy, and so it is really self-care, and just opening up a bit that paradigm that it has to be a certain way and it could be another way, and
Yeah,
uh,
and this is a time for women and men, but really women, to be creative in their sex life. We're wise. We it's not like, oh, we have 15 minutes before the parents come home, or we're out in the back of a car, or things like that. We can set the mood. We can take long baths before. We can do all these things that and you have the kids running around. You can't do any of that. There's all these wonderful things we can do for ourselves first. And then if we expand our thinking and look at it as a journey and very creative, we can help our partner and we can help ourselves. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this could be the best time sexually in your entire life.
Mhm.
Um, I know everybody's going to roll their eyes and be like, oh no. And I'm going to say, if you put the effort into opening your mind and living in the moment, it could be the best part of your life.
Well, I don't know if your experience would concur with this, because you've seen a lot of people and this is your focus, but I know that during menopause time, I've treated quite a few patients, and not specifically for that, but that's part of what they're going through. And it's also a time where old traumas, sexual traumas,
Yes.
resurface, right? Whether it's to the man who was abused or molested by some priest or some whatever it is, whatever the story is, or an uncle or whatever that, and same with the woman, right? And or the beliefs of that may have existed before, of this is naughty and this is not, and whatever, all this weird teachings that we've had. And I think a lot of stuff comes out then, and it's really an opportunity to deeply heal from that.
I agree. And yes, I have heard on both sides. I've heard where things will surface. But again, because we're older, we're wiser, we understand these things. This opens up communication. There's nothing else that you can do for each other. It's communication. And you end up healing and working through them together by being open-minded, by understanding this doesn't feel so good anymore mentally, physically, because something's popping up from my past and it's causing this. And it may never have been a part of your lives up until then.
Yep.
30 years later, all of a sudden it's popping out for whatever reason that it is. And yeah, you can heal together. You can heal alone, but you have to be open to what's happening to yourself, allow yourself to feel it, and allow yourself to work with it and through it.
Mm. And I think just adding what you brought to the conversation at the beginning, it's you're not you don't have to be the victim of this. It's really you are holding the transformation,
Right.
all the possibility, yourself, right? I mean, yourself with your partner, whichever way you want to do it, but it's you're rewriting a story that may have been hampering you without you realizing it.
Exactly. You need to give yourself permission at this time. Again, that experience is always written in you because you experienced it. However, you can rewrite that story and you can give yourself permission to finally let go. And a lot of people holding on to that is comforting.
Yeah.
It's very comforting to hold on to that. So the act of letting go is very scary. And this is the time to give yourself permission to let go and rewrite your story.
Well, our time is up. I was going to give you just like the last words, and how do people get hold of you, or how do what you do?
They can get a hold of me. Instagram, I answer Instagram all the time. It's my Tempesta, so MyTempesta, or our website, mytempesta.com. Or you can always find me on my Instagram. It's I am Kelfire. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your experience.
And thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
So, just an observation after talking to Kelly is really how menopause has become a type of diagnosis. And with a diagnosis, there's like a diseased state, and all these symptoms, which, okay, it's good to know what you can experience, but it doesn't take into consideration, except because of hormones that affect your mood, but it really does, it's not big enough to understand the whole sociocultural components of menopause and all that it entails, and just the life of woman, basically. So I found that yeah, a very inspiring conversation, and that's how I would look at it. Do we really need to diagnose this once again? Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on, as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.